Hey everyone, and welcome back. I am so excited. Yet another week spent together growing, learning, and trying something new, right? We tried a lot of new things this week. I would say every day we tried something new and we talked about something new. And that's pretty cool because not all the time do we get to learn new information. So I'm really proud of us and I'm excited for next week. But before next week, we've got something fun planned for today. Oh yes, I'm talking about today. What do we have going on? Well, you guys will just have to stick around and see, but for now, let's talk about our riddle. So, our riddle, I think, is a really funny one, and as you guys know, I like the silly and goofy things. I think everything should be just a little bit silly and goofy, especially right now when things can be a little crazy and overwhelming. So, our riddle today is, why do lions only eat raw meat? I'll let you guys know the answer is a little silly, but at the end of the video, after we finish reading our George's Marvelous Medicine chapter book, we will talk about the answer together. So make sure to stick around. Now, guys, we've got a super awesome scavenger hunt planned for you. I'm so excited to talk about it. Our scavenger hunt this week, guys, is so stinking cool. When I tell you, as I was making it, as I was forming it up in my little brain, I was thinking, wow, I can't wait to do this. It's because I can't wait to do it. I'm very excited because this week we are doing a timed team scavenger hunt. Oh yeah, I'm really excited about it because I think it's a fun way to kind of get ready for the weekend and spend some time with your friends and family that you might be hanging around the house with, because I know we've all been stuck inside and it's been a little crazy and we're probably running out of things to do, but hey, here's something to do, our scavenger hunt. Stay tuned and I'll show you exactly what it looks like. This is it, guys. This is our scavenger hunt, team time. It's a time scavenger hunt. Set the timer for 5 minutes and have both teams race to see who can find the most in that time period. So make sure you mark them off, make sure you have a fun team name, and make sure you can find some of the things we've got on this list. We've got household things such as funny pictures, a pair of sunglasses, a book starting with a T, things you can find all around your house. This is available in the links below, so make sure to check it out. Click on it, you can print it, you can keep it on your phone, whatever works best for you guys. I hope you have a blast with it. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you win. So, now that we've talked about our scavenger hunt, let's jump right into our positive action. Our positive action today, guys, is really going to focus in on what we got going on up here. So, if you remember, yesterday we talked a lot about feelings and just how important they are, and pretty much interact with every part of who we are. If you haven't checked that out and you're kind of like, what is this woman saying to me right now? Make sure to go check out yesterday's video where we discussed it. You'll be a lot more in the know with what I'm talking about. Now today, we are talking about thoughts and actions and how they go together. Because guys, if you remember yesterday, I talked about how everything up here relates to the outside world, what's going on around us. And the same is true and applicable for thoughts and actions. Because if we're not aware of our feelings and our thoughts, then we're probably going to act in ways that aren't so great. Or maybe we don't exactly have control over. And I don't know about you, but I like to be in control of what's happening up here and with my body. So I think it's a good skill and resource to begin learning. Because, like I said yesterday, when we become more self-aware of what's going on inside our brains and around us, we are better equipped. We are ready to face the future more. We know a little bit more of what's going on. And when we know even just a little bit more of what's going on, it prepares us, right? You would never walk into a test without studying, right? It's the end of the year, it's the biggest test, and you haven't studied. Oh, you're not going to do so hot on that test, right? But when you go in, you've got this information, you've learned this all throughout the school year, you've really done your research, you're going to be prepared. Think of self-awareness like that. Life is the test, and we want to make sure we're studying for the test. So we're doing the work to make sure we know what's going on in here and around us, because that way we're going to pass. and passing, in my opinion, is growing to be the best version of ourselves. So I hope we all pass, right? Whew, fingers crossed. So now that we've talked a little bit about our positive action, let's go on and get reading. I hope you guys are excited because guess what? We are jumping right back into our book. Oh yes, George's Marvelous Medicine. And guys, when I say this is absolutely the craziest book I've ever read, it is the craziest book, without a doubt. I've read lots of crazy things, but this takes the cake. So, if you haven't been following along with all our readings, make sure to go back and check it out. I promise you, you don't want to miss this story. But if you guys missed our last reading, I will catch you up just a little bit. So, what you guys missed in our last reading was Mom and Dad aren't mad. No, just the opposite actually. They want George to make more crazy medicine. But George said, Mom, Dad, I don't really know what I put into it because I kind of just went crazy with it. So Dad wasn't too happy. Dad doesn't really think that'll be a problem. I can foresee it being maybe just a little bit of a problem, but let's jump into our book and see what really happens. Ahem. I can't possibly remember all the hundreds of things I put into the saucepan to make the medicine, George said. Of course you can, my dear boy, cried Mr. Cranky. I'll help you. I'll jog your memory. You'll get it in the end. You'll see if you don't. Now then, what was the very first thing you put in? I went up to the bathroom first, George said. I used a lot of things in the bathroom and on Mommy's dressing table. Come on then, cried Mr. Cranky. Up we go to the bathroom. When they got up there, they found, of course, a whole lot of empty tubes and empty aerosols and empty bottles. That's great, said Mr. Cranky. That tells us exactly what you used. If anything is empty, it means you used it. So Mr. Cranky started making a list of everything that was empty in the bathroom. Then they went to Mrs. Cranky's dressing table. A box of powder, said Mr. Cranky, writing it down. Helga hair set. Flowers of turnip perfume. Terrific. This is going to be easy. Where did you go next? To the laundry room, George said. But are you sure you haven't missed anything up here, Dad? That's up to you, my boy, Mr. Cranky said. Have I? I don't think so, George said. So down they went to the laundry room, and once again Mr. Cranky wrote every name down of all the empty bottles and cans. My goodness me, what a mass of stuff you used, he cried. No wonder it did magic things. Is it really that much? No, Dad, it's not, George said, and he led his father out to the shed where the animal medicines were kept and showed him 5 big empty bottles up on the shelf. Mr. Cranky wrote down all of their names. Anything else? Mr. Cranky asked. All right, here is Mr. Cranky and George. You can see they're going together, trying to find everything, writing everything down. Little George scratched his head and thought. He couldn't remember having put anything else in. Mr. Cranky leapt into his car and drove down to the village and bought new bottles and tubes and cans of everything on his list. He then went to the vet and got fresh supplies of animal medicines that George had used. Now, show me how you did it, George, he said. Come along, show me exactly how you mixed them together. All right, we're moving on to the next chapter, Marvelous Medicine number 2. Oh no. Let's see where this goes. They were in the kitchen now, and the big saucepan was on the stove. All the things Mr. Cranky had bought were lined up near the sink. Come along, my boy, cried Mr. Cranky. Which did you put in first? This one, George said, Golden Gloss Hair Shampoo. He emptied the bottle into the pan. Now the toothpaste, George went on, and the shaving soap, and the face cream, and the nail varnish. Keep at it, my boy, cried Mr. Cranky, dancing around the kitchen. Keep putting it in. Don't stop, don't pause, don't hesitate. It's a pleasure, my dear fellow, to watch you work. One by one, George poured and squeezed the things into the saucepan. With everything so close at hand, the whole job didn't make more than 10 minutes. But when it was all done, the saucepan didn't seem to be quite as full as it was the first time. Now what did you do? Cried Mr. Cranky. Did you stir it? I boiled it, George said, but not for long, and I stirred it as well. So, Mr. Cranky lit the gas under the saucepan. George stirred the mixture in the same long wooden spoon that he had used before. It's not brown enough, George said. Wait a minute, I've forgotten. What? Cried Mr. Cranky. Tell me quick, because if we've forgotten even one tiny thing, then it won't work. At least, not in the same way. A quart of brown gloss paint, George said. That's what I've forgotten. Mr. Cranky shot out of the house into his car like a rocket. He sped down the village and bought the paint and rushed back again. He opened the can in the kitchen and handed it to George. George poured the paint into the saucepan. Aha, that's better, George said. It's more like the right color. It's boiling, cried Mr. Cranky. It's boiling and bubbling, George. Is it ready yet? It's ready, George said. At least, I hope it is. Right, shouted Mr. Cranky, hopping about. Let's test it. Give some to the chicken. My heavens alive, why don't you calm down a bit, Miss Cranky said, coming into the kitchen. Calm down, cried Mr. Cranky. You expect me to calm down when we're here mixing up the greatest medicine ever discovered in the history of the world? Come on, George. Dip a cupful of this into the saucepan and get a spoon, and we'll give some to the chicken, just to make absolutely certain we've gotten the correct mixture. Outside in the yard, there were several chickens that hadn't had any of George's marvelous medicine number 1. They were pecking about in the dirt in that silly way that chickens do. George crouched down, holding out a spoonful of marvelous medicine number 2. Come on, chicken, he said. Good chicken. Chick, chick, chick. A white chicken with black specks on its feathers looked up at George. It walked over to the spoon and went, peck. All right, that is where I'll stop for today. Lastly, though, let's look at this picture. He's trying to feed the little bird some marvelous medicine number 2. Oh my gosh. Guys, I really wonder what's going to happen, because I know if you've been following along, you remember that when George read, the first time when we read through George making the medicine, he did like a little chant at the end. He made it like a magic potion, like a spell, right? He didn't do that this time. So I wonder if that'll affect anything. I don't know. We'll just have to keep that in mind as we keep reading. So, before I say my goodbyes, let's of course talk about our little goofy riddle today. I think it's a real fun one. So, who remembers what our riddle was? Our riddle was, why do lions only eat raw meat? The answer is, because they never learned how to cook. I thought it was funny because can you imagine a little lion in the chef's hat in the kitchen going and cooking? I thought it was just a really funny type of idea. So I hope this brought you guys a little bit of joy. I hope you enjoyed our scavenger hunt that we have planned for you guys. I hope you find everything and win for your team. Now, it's time for me to say my goodbyes. Thank you so much for watching.